How we doing, guys? Sorry about that. Anyway, bit of trouble at Joe's end there, but we're all good. We're all good, guys. We're gonna play it off as a part two anyway. So if you're joining us again, thanks so much for joining us. We've got Beren for another 10, 15 minutes, and yes, apologies for that, guys, but we are back onto part two anyway, and we're just discussing the under 23s and any potential outgoings from that side of things. So take it away, Beren. Anyway.
The best sequel since Godfather Part 2, isn't it? Yeah, so as we were saying, the elephant in the room is, of course, players that need to move out that haven't really done so yet. So talk about the 23s a little bit. Anybody who missed the end of the last video, I think it's a transitional year for the 23s after the successes they've had under Marcelo. The big difficulty they've got is that if they're going to go out on loan, it's got to be worth it, because if they're going to go out on loan somewhere and only play like 15 times off the bench in a season, then that's just completely worthless, because you're better off having a year under Marcelo. I mean, that's the catch-22, is that if you don't go out on loan, there is the chance of injuries, and Marcelo will chuck anybody into the Premier League from the kids, if he trusts them. So if they're going to go out on loan, it's got to be worthwhile, and they've got to get to a level that's high enough to test them, but also where they're almost guaranteed 35, 40 starts to really make it worth their while going away. So, I mean, Ryan Edmondson's already gone out to Aberdeen, unfortunately got injured, but I think they're still looking to try and keep that loan move alive. So that's an example of what they might try and do with some of the others. As highly as Gotts, McCalmont, Davis and Stevens are rated, as I've said, realistically in the Premier League, you're looking at 2 or 3 injuries in their positions for them to get a chance. I've said briefly, Davis is 4th choice left back behind Dallas, Alioski and Douglas. So realistically, he needs to go out and play football now. Another year in the 23s, even if it's in the Premier League 2, slightly higher level, it just doesn't feel like it's going to be enough for him. So I think we may well see some loans. I mean, there's already been talk of Gotts at Huddersfield. I don't think that's quite as advanced as some people might have you believe, but it's an obvious link to make, isn't it? But like I say, they're only going to want to go out if it is going to work for them and there's going to be a slot for them to play in.
I suppose the case in point there is Clark O'Donnell and Apoel, who are now starting in the 11. Yeah. I mean, O'Donnell scored that goal that beat Brentford.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that the types of bogus and like the question has always been with Ryan Edmondson as well, why aren't we seeing him? Why aren't we seeing him on the bench and stuff?
I think it comes down to Bielsa, doesn't it? I mean, there's only so much we see in matches, and there's only so much Bielsa's going to say in press conferences, and I think actions speak louder than words. And I think it's pretty obvious when you look at how happy Bielsa is to put kids on the bench. We've seen Casey, Struijk, Hosanna, McCalmont, Gotts, Davis. They've all been on the bench at some point when needed. But even when we've been down a striker, he hasn't put Edmondson on the bench. And, we're jumping to conclusions somewhat, but surely the assumption is that Edmondson's just not good enough in Bielsa's eyes. There's clearly something Edmondson isn't doing to impress Bielsa, because he's happy to put them on the bench. Or if he's not putting you on the bench, and there's got to be a reason why, which, that's how football works. If you're not doing something the manager wants you to do, you're not going to get picked. It's very, very simple. So regardless of how clinical he looks to us in the 23s, there's obviously something that Bielsa just doesn't quite fancy. So I think, that's the 23s. You talked a little bit, Oscar, there about Barry Douglas and Kiko. I think at the start of the window, everybody's doing their own little squad graphs and looking at who might move and who was out of favour. And I think it was easy. You definitely looked at Kiko and Barry and thought, if anybody was going to move from an already small group, they were the two that you might have thought there's definitely a motive for leaving. As I said, Barry Douglas is now 30, maybe even 31 recently, but he's at the peak of his powers. These are his best footballing years, and he wants to be playing, doesn't he? And rightly or wrongly, he has not played very much football since he's come to Leeds. In the first year, a lot of it was down to injuries. In the second year, more injuries, but you have to admit he's gone down the pecking order. Dallas and Alioski certainly performed better than Douglas for much of the season, and you would not have been forgiven for thinking, Douglas wants to get a move, and there's no bad blood there. It's just the way it is. Not everybody's going to play football, and if you can get football elsewhere, especially at a big club like Celtic, then why wouldn't you? But the noises we're getting is he's really happy here. He's a big part of the dressing room. He's very, very popular. I think you can't underestimate that impact off the field. He's obviously a more experienced head. He's very good for squad morale, and he fits in well. And I think that providing he stays happy, the club are more than happy to keep hold of him. He's a very good influence at the club. But we asked the question about the Celtic stuff, but he's really, really happy where he is, and I think he backs himself to maybe get himself into the team. And I think there is certainly reason to believe he might play a bit more. They're going to go into the Premier League. Dallas might get exposed more, given that he's not a natural left back. They might want to see a bit more balance on the left. We saw in the Blackburn game after restart that Douglas played really well, didn't he, at Ewood Park? Brought a lot more balance to the side as a natural left footer. So who knows? Douglas might end up being the surprise of the season.
I'm not convinced.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's probably why we're all talking about him as a possible exit. Unfortunately, we haven't seen anything like the Barry Douglas that was at Wolves. Best left back in the division when they won the league. All those assists. But no, I agree with you, Joe. He certainly hasn't particularly impressed me over a long period. But if he's happy and the club are happy, then he's not a bad option to have on the bench at least.
Yeah. I know that Barry speaks a lot of languages as well, so you could throw a translator in there.
Yeah, he's. I mean, especially with the likes of Alioski and Klitsch looking around.
Alioski needs a team of people to look after him. Really, kind of catch him outside with a jacket like that.
Can I just ask? Not so much on the individual himself, but our goalkeeping situation obviously yesterday happened, and social media was in meltdown again about this specific individual and Kiko. Do we see him moving on? Do we see us bringing in a replacement? Have you heard about a goalkeeper coming in at all, or what's your thoughts with that, and what's going to happen?
I think Victor has always got a shortlist for every position, so I'm sure that if the time came, he would have 4 or 5 goalkeepers he could move for quite quickly. There were certainly more names being chucked around at the start of the window. Angus Gunn was mentioned again at Southampton. He was mentioned in Bielsa's first window before we got Jamal Blackman. Martinez at Arsenal was mentioned.
What about Romero?
Romero was mentioned, but he was on that list that I put to the club and they said no to. So I don't believe that Romero could happen. Although that was before Dean Henderson committed his future to Manchester United, and clearly they've got Henderson and De Gea now. So Romero is very much surplus to requirements, and he'll be desperate to get a move to play football somewhere. So Leeds isn't too far geographically for him if he wanted to. Maybe better suited to La Liga or somewhere like that. I think with Kiko, he was definitely one that I thought was just done. I think with the way the season finished, he was displaced by Meslier. Meslier did perfectly well, and I think we just thought, whatever has gone on behind the scenes, he's a man in, he's still early 30s, isn't he? Approaching his mid 30s. He's had a distinguished career. He's not played a lot of football, but he's won a lot of trophies. Why wouldn't he want to just go and finish his career quietly in Spain? Go back over there. He's going to get a lot less heat than he will over here. Clearly, first-team football's not guaranteed here anymore. He did have a contract here. He's on good money here. So, that's the sticking point, is that for him to go, you would need a Spanish club to match his wages, perhaps. But if somebody like him has earned his money, he's not going to need to worry about money anymore going into retirement. But no, I think certainly at the start of the window, it felt like that was a natural conclusion to draw, was that, Kiko will find a move. He'll go on and we'll get somebody else in to compete with Ilan. But he came back to pre-season. He's been in the fold. He's played both the friendlies with Meslier away with France's under-21s. But as you say, Joe, you don't even need to watch yesterday's highlights. You just watch that goal that Pacos Ferreira scored, and you just... Again, it's just an easy conclusion to make, isn't it? You look at it and think, look, why wouldn't you play Meslier? Why wouldn't you? There's so much evidence to say that he stays in with Liverpool, and you give him a fair crack at it, give him the start of the season, and if for whatever reason he has a meltdown, then maybe you turn to Kiko again. But there's fewer and fewer reasons for me to start Kiko next weekend.
If he was, there'd be an absolute meltdown, wouldn't there? I think that's one thing. If he was to start, I'd stay off social media for that day, I think. Go on, Oscar. I think you were going to ask.
One that's just reminded me, to be fair, Andrew Saxton in the comments there. Luis Felipe was I guess 2 questions to this one. Was it ever a link? And is it something that might happen, or is it just very, very unlikely now?
I think now that Cox signed, it's very, very unlikely. I think Felipe is not the sort of guy that's going to come in and be back up to Liam Cooper. I think the money talked about, I mean, he would have been maybe in a similar sort of price bracket to someone like Ben White. I mean, you've probably got Cox for maybe sort of half the money that Felipe would have cost. So I don't think he would fit the same profile as somebody like Gvardiol, the young Croatian lad who may be more prepared to sit on the bench. So no, I don't believe that one would happen now for that kind of money. I think that kind of money is going to be reserved for somebody like a Rodrigo de Paul.
And I guess what's really struck me this transfer window so far, obviously it's completely different times that we're facing at the minute, and probably, hopefully, will be the only time in our lifetimes we ever face anything like this. But obviously, you're saying there's still a month to go of the transfer window. You know, anything can happen. You know, I know the season starts, but there's going to be 3 or 4 games before the transfer window even closes. But I guess it's just what's really stuck out to me, especially, is how few transfers are going on at the minute. Do you expect, Beren, that maybe in the next month or so it's just going to explode in terms of, you know, as the season starts, people will start moving and we will really start business at other clubs as well? Do you expect that to happen, not just at Leeds?
There's certainly a possibility. I think that's the noise we're getting from Leeds, is it is just a very, very quiet market, which is why perhaps the Paul is taking a little bit longer. It feels like Chelsea are the only club that have really gone out there and just hit the button on everything. I mean, I know Werner was in the pipe work for a long time, and of course Ziyech was signed, you know, during last season, wasn't he? To come in this window, and Chilwell and now Havertz have signed, and you know, Chelsea fans must be absolutely buzzing about what might be to come for them. City have obviously got Ake and Ferran Torres, but yeah, it feels like a while since City have gone out there and really sort of, you know, chucked a lot of money at it. You know, I think when Abramovich first arrived at Chelsea, we'll remember that they were just blowing the bank in every single window. Before this window, it felt like it had been quite some time since Chelsea have gone out there and actually mixed with the big boys. And it feels like since, you know, City had the oil money come in and they had their sort of rebirth, it feels like they've settled down a little bit as well. And of course, Liverpool have settled down. I mean, they're the champions. They don't really need to strengthen too much. I think they were looking at Ben White, and they'll probably give him another year or two just to prove himself in the Prem before they move for somebody like that. But yeah, I think there is certainly the reason to believe it might explode. I mean, United have gone and got Donny van der Beek from Ajax, and there's still the talk of Jadon Sancho, which obviously is a big money move, which may well then get other things moving at other clubs in the transfer market in sort of a domino effect. Barca, as we've already talked about, are looking to maybe sell, which would get things moving. But yeah, I think, like you say, Oscar, it is such an unprecedented situation that it may well not catch light, and we may well just ride this one out, and clubs may well go into it with what they've got, because they don't like the risk of either selling a player under their value or buying a player over their value, because it's such a strange market and player valuations are all over the place. Clubs' financial positions are all over the place. So they may well just not want to take the risk.
I know, we know a lot of clubs have took a hit, you know, due to the COVID situation and stuff like that. Maybe that's why I'm not seeing as much transfer. But going to what you're saying about Chelsea, some of them, what is it, 250 million they've spent now? They've just spent 80 million on Kai Havertz and 50 on Ben Chilwell. I mean,
I thought Frank Lampard only brought through youth, though. I thought that was the big.
Yeah, no. What he meant was he brings through youth from other teams.
When they're not allowed to make any transfers, basically.
Basically, what you do, you go to an oil field, you get it all out, you get, and then what you do is then you just buy everyone else's.
Yeah.
What? Maximum price. 3 dots. But yeah, I mean, if for the targets that we've been, you know, like Gvardiol, RDP, Rodrigo, and Koch, do you see that as a good window, Beren?
Yeah, yeah, I really do. I think we were all briefed to say that they were looking at the Championship's best. You know, they were looking at following the Sheffield United model, but you know, they clearly haven't, have they? I mean, it couldn't be further from that. And as with any transfer, time will tell. I mean, you guys have been Leeds fans long enough to know that a transfer can look as good as you want it to before it happens. But, you know, if the signing doesn't work out, nobody can predict that. And, you know, we will know in a year's time as to whether it was a good window or not, and as to how well these lads settle in. But it certainly feels that way. I mean, I didn't know a lot about Rodrigo before he signed. I was aware of his name at Spain and Valencia, but it's not until you actually read more about him and realise that Spain's number 9. It's absolutely frightening. I mean, he's the real deal. I mean, that is a proper European elite striker. And he's going to be sat on the bench watching Patrick Bamford. It's strange, isn't it? I think, in RDP especially, I don't know if you guys follow UFC Data, who is he's wonderful on Twitter with the analysis that he does. And if he's excited, we should be excited when you do a deep dive on RDP. And yeah, like as I've said, spending £20 million on Liam Cooper's backup from Croatia certainly sounds pretty decent as well. But it does sound like a good window, and I don't think any of us wanted revolution in this window. None of us wanted to go out there and sign 7 or 8 first-team players because A, it's not the way Bielsa goes, and B, we're quite happy with what we've got, aren't we? I think we want to go with what we've got. We want to give these lads a chance. I think there's a lot of success that's come from continuity, especially last summer. The lads sort of stuck around last summer, didn't they? Obviously, Harrison came back on loan again, and Orta was saying that continuity would be the key, and that proved the case. There weren't a lot of gaps in the team to be plugged, and Bielsa likes running with a small squad. So, as you say, if we get RDP and Gvardiol, that's an amazing window, and time will tell, won't it?
Yeah, I have to agree with everything you've said, and like Danny said, I think we're all in agreement really that it's an amazing window, and we've got an ambitious bunch. At the end of the day, who'd have thought we'd have got Bielsa? The striker signings we've made in the past, the likes of Nketiah and JK, they just haven't worked. But it's been unfortunate. You can't say that the club haven't been ambitious bringing them in, because the top level operators, we know that with Eddie. We went and scored a hat trick the other day for the under 21s at England. But I guess obviously we're aware it's Sunday and Beren needs to shoot. I just want to ask you, Beren, quickly, what are your predictions for the season? Where do you think we'll finish? Me, I'm thinking knocking on the door of Europe. These have to try really. But what are your thoughts?
It's tough, isn't it? I mean, it's so exciting about what might be to come. I mean, I feel the way we felt when Bielsa first came in. When he first arrived, we thought it was going to go one of two ways. We thought we were either going to romp it or it was just going to blow up and he'd be out by October. But thankfully, it's gone really, really well. It's really exciting. And I think because we had that little snippet of the Arsenal game in the Cup, I think that has just got everybody really excited. And you think, no, they're only human. They're not going to play like that every single week in the Premier League. I mean, that is it's one 45-minute period in one game, but they were so good that night. I mean, when you think back, I mean, that's one of the highlights of the season for me. I know they lost, but that first 45 minutes was just unbelievable. I mean, it was like the world had realised what Leeds had been treated to for the last 18 months under Bielsa, and everybody was getting very, very excited about what might be to come if they got promoted. And you don't forget those quotes from Arteta. He said playing Leeds was like going to the dentist. I mean, that is just incredible, and it gets you so excited for what might be to come. And next Saturday is just fascinating, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't get any tougher. Away at the champions, and I don't think any of us will get too discouraged if we did lose the game, because Liverpool have just won the league by about 20-odd points. I mean, they're the best team in Europe, and we've just got promoted, and half our team's just been away on Europe for 2 weeks. So I think it's going to be really fascinating. I won't dodge your question, though. I think...
I was thinking, man, politicians.
If I was putting money on it, I would put money on them finishing between 8th and 14th. I think if I was giving myself a decent little sort of bracket, I think between 8th and 14th caters for them having an amazing season. And I think... I don't know. It's so hard, isn't it? Because you look at what Norwich did. Norwich did really, really well in the Championship, and they got absolutely battered every week. Leeds are different. We know they're different, and I think that's why I'm a bit more confident than maybe I would be. But last season, when there was 2 examples, wasn't there? Sheffield United were unbelievable. Absolutely incredible. Probably one of the best promoted sides we've seen in years, apart from Wolves. Wolves are another one. You look at what Wolves have done. They proved that if you do get it right after promotion, you can kick on and become a top half club immediately. So I think based on what we saw in the Arsenal game, what we know Bielsa's capable of, there's a lot of rubbish in the Premier League. There's a lot of very, very bad teams, and I think we'll catch a lot of them cold. And I think if we do, we could. What I would say is it's going to be a really entertaining season. I think we're going to see a lot of goals. I think we will concede a few against the big teams. You know, City, Liverpool are going to love the fact we play with a high press and with a high line, and they're going to enjoy themselves on occasion. But I also think that means we're going to catch a few off guard. You know, I think teams like Burnley may well show us a lot of respect and just put men behind the ball. But you know, what we noticed in the Championship, wasn't it? You know, what I'm focusing on is we won the league and the Championship with half, 2/3 of the division were playing defensively against us. They were playing a low block. We were camped in their half, and we were just having those frustrating games where we were just trying to break them down, and it was very, very frustrating. But that's not going to happen in the Prem. The top half of the Premier League are going to attack us, and they're going to give us a lot of space. And can you imagine Harrison, Costa, and Rodrigo on the break? I mean, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
When you see some of our best goals are on the counter attack. And we didn't get to see it a lot because teams weren't letting us counter them. But in the Premier League, there's going to be a lot of teams attacking us. We're going to turn them over, and they're going to be launching Pablo's passes into the channels. And it's going to be actually really nice to see teams attacking us and giving us some space to attack. And I think we will get a lot of scalps.
Can you imagine Pablo feeding Rodrigo?
I know.
Not
It's
even
so
looking
good, isn't it? So
like
good.
that, just flicking around. See you later. Brilliant ending. I agree with you completely, mate. I'm so excited. Not only that, we've got better quality of player now as well. You know, you mentioned Sheffield United. They brought in McBurney, etc. We're bringing in Rodrigo, possibly Rodrigo. So, you know, for me, it's not out of the realms of possibility for us to be knocking on the door. But I do like that 8 to 14. One thing we won't be doing, just a little dig, is competing with Brighton. I don't know where they get that from, but you know they'll be getting relegated for me, so we'll have to wait and see. But thank you so much, Beren, for coming on. Danny, have you got a few quick questions you want to ask about the thing? Have you got it ready?
Right, okay. Sprung it on me. It's a little game that we play called All Smart Aren't We? And basically, you've got 45 seconds to answer these questions. Shall we see how, you'll go on the leaderboard, don't worry. Jamie from Yours All Boys is at the lead, is at the top. I think he's 6, and Joe and Oscar had a goal the other day. And
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let me know.
He's ready to go. Right, okay, let me just find them. Get some in between.
Maybe Premier League.
All smart. Hi, I'm Danny. I'm your host. And basically, these are. Did you see the Newell's All Boys stream, by the way?
No, I didn't, mate. No, I'm afraid.
Good. These questions are coming. So we're on. Ready?
Go.
And go. What is Leeds United's nickname?
The Whites, Peacocks.
1. Which club did Diego Maradona last play for in Europe? Barcelona, Sevilla, or Napoli?
Sevilla.
That is correct. Who is the world's most expensive teenager?
Dembele.
Incorrect. Mbappe.
No, yeah.
Who is the oldest manager in the Premier League history?
The oldest. Warnock. Bobby Robson.
Incorrect. Roy Hodgson. First answers only. Has Zlatan ever won the Champions League?
Sorry, you broke up there. Say it again.
Add 5 seconds, Joe.
Yeah.
What is the All Boys nickname?
The Lepers.
Correct. Well done. How old is Bielsa?
65.
Correct.
Stop.
Well done.
Stop.
Is that time?
Yeah, we've got 55 seconds there. You got 10 seconds further.
Well done, Beren.
No.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
I'm not prepared for that at all.
Yeah. Oh, you came in second, Beren. You second. Good effort, though. Good effort.
Cool. Right, I think we'll let Beren go. I think the Sunday dinner's probably almost done, is it, mate? So we'll let you go. And thank you so much for coming on. Really sorry for the technical gremlins. My fault. I was mortified. But again, I think that's the second time we've had Beren on, and there's been technical difficulties. So
It's me, I'm the problem.
Yeah. But thank you so much for coming on, and enjoy your weekend, mate. And thanks for your great content as always.
No worries, boys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Absolute legend of a guest. Great guy. Really grateful to have him on. Really sorry about the technical difficulties from my end. So bad. I've never been so mortified in all my life. I felt horrible. But talk away, guys. What we're saying? How was that? You know, I guess there's nothing new. We already all know what's going down. Obviously, the Rodrigo de Paul one. I know he didn't. Beren said like he didn't want to put words in the guy's mouth, but do you think he's maybe holding out for a bigger club, maybe in Italy, Juventus, possibly?
I've read, you know, because I speak fluent Italian, via Google Translate, I've seen that, you know, rumours, nothing more, that he wants to hold out for Juventus, but I can't see that happening with Suarez going in, and there's talks of Vidal going there, so I can't. Do you think Pirlo would want him there?
I think that's the big thing, isn't it? You know, when Andrea Pirlo, you know, arguably the best midfielder of his generation, you know, and you're a midfielder yourself as well, it's hard, isn't it? To be fair to him, you know, you can see why he would hold out, you know, and someone like Juventus, he's in the Italian league, he knows how big Juventus are, he's probably thinking, got half an eye on the next World Cup or the next international tournament for Argentina, keep his place in the national team, he's probably got half an eye on that. If Juventus come calling, you never know, do you? You know, it is very difficult to say no to someone like Pirlo. Obviously, you've got Ronaldo in the team, Suarez going there as well. It's hard to say no. To be as much as you know, we all love Leeds. It's hard to say no to something like that, isn't it? You know, if you're playing in the Italian league, but I guess it's a tough one, isn't it? I think Pirlo, he doesn't really strike me as a massive Pirlo player. I don't think he's someone who, you know, just plays 70, 80 passes in a game and controls games in that kind of manner, like a Pirlo, Iniesta, Xavi. I don't think he's that kind of player, but who knows? The link is there. The link is probably there for a reason from the Italian side of things, but there's been loads of clubs linked, hasn't there, I guess? I think there was even a sort of mention of Arsenal at right at the start of the rumour as well. So who knows? You know, I guess obviously Vidal, if Vidal goes to Juve as well, that's another midfielder. It's seeing the Paul going there, and that's only good news for us, I guess. So for me personally, guys, I'm hoping Vidal goes to Juve, and that kind of really clears the way for us, kind of thing. It's like when you see someone you fancy and just really wanting to get with someone else, and then as soon as they do, it clears the way for you then, and that's what it is for Leeds, really, for me. I don't really know where I was going with that analogy, to be honest, but it just
sometimes you just got to power through. You just got to power through the analogy and go with it. But yeah, I see. I've read again that we've agreed personal terms, and it's just haggling over the price. But it's everywhere online. You know, like you could find somewhere that I've agreed personal terms with Udinese that I'm going that way. I'll do that.
Not you've just signed for us.
I'll go on loan. I don't mind getting a tan. Look at me. I look like Edward Cullen from Twilight. I'm not pale. But yeah, I mean, there's been a few people in the comments I've noticed that are talking about Kiko. Can you see us signing another keeper?
Hope so. That's all I'm going to say. I think we will. You know, but kind of going off what Beren said, I think it obviously depends on a lot of things. I think, does it get to a point where you kind of get to a stage with Kiko where you say, we pay up half his contract and we just let him go for free, and then because it's going to be hard persuading whatever Kiko money is well into like pushing towards 50, 60k a week. Again, just rumours I've heard, but the thing is, can you really see a Spanish club paying that? Can you see any club being happy to pay that for a goalkeeper who, let's face it, this calendar year especially has been nothing short of a liability, and that's not just with stuff off the pitch either. He's just been a complete liability on the pitch. I think every single game he's played, he's made a mistake. That's just a fact. You know, I don't want to hammer Kiko too much, but it's a fact, isn't it? You know, even in pre-season, he's making mistakes.
I said it before. Even that game against Derby, it was a nothing game for us, and I was still nervous when he came out and went for the ball. I even commented saying, "Bloody hell, he's just caught the ball from a corner." Do you know what I mean? That's not Kiko. That's Meslier with his Kiko shirt on, and it's just. I just think he's a liability.
Until we can move him on, if that makes sense. With the whole keeper situation, I think Leeds United aren't going to go out and get a keeper while he's still here. Because, like Oscar's alluded to, he's on decent money. Whether anyone's willing to give him parity, doubt it. So does he look at it? I think it was a big deal as well, wasn't it? Like 4-year deal?
It's 2023 expires. 2023.
So
3 years.
Yeah. So from Kiko's perspective, if he's getting, because he will have been contacted 100% by a lot of clubs, 100% is available. But if they're saying, look, we can't give you anywhere close to that, and he's wanting to, the end of the day, what we've got to remember, footballers are people too. Whether or not we've seen it before. I mean, look at Jack Rodwell at Sunderland. He sat on their books for years, man, and bled that club dry. At the end of the day, it's money. If you're earning a certain wage, guys, and someone's offering you 5-10% of that, do you know what I mean? So this is a factor. So for me, Leeds United are waiting to see he moves on before bringing another in, because he's going to be number 2, and he's got bags of experience, can help Meslier in that respect, whether or not you agree with his personality and all that sort of stuff. So I just think the only time we see a new goalkeeper, because the goalkeepers, they are available, they are available, and the window doesn't shut till October, a month, as Beren said yesterday. So goalkeepers can be got. Do you know what I mean? So I think if for whatever reason we do need to bring one in, we can do it quickly. It's just a case of waiting to see what happens with Kiko, in my opinion. But it's clear the fans just are not having it anymore. Like, even in the game that he played against Derby, he was gash. He nearly made a howler in that one. He got at 6s and 7s with Ayling, and then both pre-seasons games, he's made errors. He's made errors. Like, there's no one. I mean, he can't. But if he was to start, can you imagine? We'd probably lose about 8-0. He would come out of his box to try and totally misjudge Manny and Salah's pace.
Mate, I think what's his name? Alisson will be having shots against us. He'll be getting the ball and thinking, what, I want to score here as well. He'll be having shots from goal kicks if we play Kiko. And look, at the end of the day, Kiko's brought this on himself. It's not just the fact what's happened off the pitch. We don't like him. It's a clear. I've got to be clear about that. I don't like the bloke. I just don't like his. I think his general attitude throughout his time at the club's not been good enough for me. I don't know. It's just something about Kiko I just can't. I can't respect that much. If you know what I mean. It's just something about him.
Do you think he's tainted now? Do you think there's a black mark on him, sort of thing? Do you know, like that? Like, Leeds fans now, after everything that's gone on off the pitch and on the pitch now, do you think that's it for him at least?
I don't think it's helped his career at all, anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't think the moves worked for him or for the club, but I don't think it's going to... Listen, a lot of clubs will be contacting him, but I don't think they'll be at the level that he'll be expecting. Do you know what I mean? This is what I'm saying. Yeah. So someone abroad will take a shot, I think, take a punt, but we'll have to wait and see. He's just, for someone so experienced, his decision making's absolutely crazy. I mean, he's not. Maybe I'll get shot for this, but shot stopping wise, he pulled off some worldies, man. Do you remember that one against Rotherham? I think it was Will.
Yeah, I was just about to say that one. Even who was it that shot? Was it Vokes?
Volks, I think it was Will Volks. I can't remember. He had that volley.
Yeah, and he tweeted it after the game. He goes, "How's he saved that?"
Yeah.
That's his debut.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's just never, for me. I just feel that the whole way, obviously, what happened off the pitch was handled wasn't great. To be fair, being totally honest, I don't think it was handled great. I think Kiko, no matter what, should have. I think it just should have been handled differently. I think when you read the whole report, and as much as it wasn't what we all say was said. We don't know. We don't know, do we? We don't know what was said. But the way you read the report, the way it's all kind of gone about, it didn't sit right with me. It didn't sit right with me. And for me, it was disappointing to see Kiko play at all. To see him play that game at Derby, I'd rather have played Caprill or Miyazaki. To be honest. But look, it is what it is. If Kiko stays, he'll have my full support this season. In terms of a playing side of things, I won't necessarily like him. But from a playing side of things, I'm not going to start booing him. When we're back in the ground, I'm not going to do anything stupid like that. But for me, I think no matter what Kiko does this season, there will always be a percentage of Leeds, a large percentage of Leeds fans who it'll never be enough. After what he's done, it's complete embarrassment and on the football club, isn't it? Really, and you just have to look. I mean, his general reaction to that Stoke mistake he made in pre-season was nothing. There was no kind of head in your hands. It just doesn't feel like it feels like he wants to go. The club wants him to go, but it's the contracts that's the big holding block. Because if you make a mistake as any footballer, if you make a mistake, you got your head in your hands, you look gutted about it. But Kiko, he was just there, just looking round. It just doesn't feel like it's life or death with Kiko for me. I think everyone else on that pitch, whoever plays, I feel complete trust in. But at the end of the day, what's happened has happened, and I'm going into a bit of a rant here.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's move it on.
It's something really exciting. Oh, there's an echo. The gremlins are back. So basically, last night there was a bit of a teaser about Take Us Home 2 that dropped last night. I, for one, leapt out my dressing gown with me brew, and I was very excited about this. I loved the first one, even though it had a really bad ending. And I thought Amazon do really good documentaries. I've even watched the Spurs one, which is
from a neutral fan watching that.
I've not watched it yet, but I seen the clip of Mourinho get up and go fuck off to the team.
Yeah. And there's been so many memes, and I've got one waiting. To use. So.
Oh, great, man! Great.
What do you think? Are you excited for it then?
Yeah, definitely. I'll just leave you this, boys. So I'm going to have to head off as my old Sunday dinner is on the table. I can just see it to my right here. I can see it to my right. It is looking absolutely lovely, to be fair. I can see the steam coming off it from here. I'm going to leave it with this, guys. I can't wait for it. The one thing I would like to see on this documentary that you didn't see on the first series was a little bit more around the team itself, in terms of, on the Tottenham one, obviously, one me and you have just watched, Danny. You could actually see not the team talks themselves as such, but you could see the team meetings and that lot. I'd just be interested to see how Bielsa actually addresses the players behind closed doors. Whether that's going to happen, I doubt it. I know Bielsa's a very private man. I doubt he'll sign off for that. That'd be the one thing I think that makes it a 10 out of 10 documentary. But looking forward to it nonetheless, and I hope it's got a good ending. I believe it does anyway. But I've heard a rumour this Take Me Home Series 2 does have a good ending, does have a happy ending. I'll take my word for it anyway, guys. But I'm going to leave you guys to it if that's okay. I'm going to have to head off, guys.
Of course. Thank you, mate.
See you later.
Right, okay. So really sorry as well for the technical difficulties we've had. We've had Oscar in and out. We've had me echoing sound. It's mortifying. I'm really sorry. But yeah, I mean, we've got some exciting stuff coming up this week, right, Danny? We've got Anfield Agenda dropping tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah. We had a good chat with him as well.
Really good chat. Yeah. So we've got that. We've got our previews. Danny's first preview of the season, guys. So you're going to get to watch that.
Nice.
Yeah, it will, man. It'll be good. It'll be good to see what you've got, mate. Good to see what you've got in the locker. So yeah, Mark, as much as you'd love to see it, mate, it's just never happening. It's never happening. If you don't like what you see, then you just have to move on. But Anfield agenda, yes, big red scouser, great guy, Craig. So we'll get that out as well. But yeah, what's to chat about, mate? What do you want to have a chat about, guys? Get your questions in, we'll get them answered. We love Danny. We love Danny.
Thank you for the nice messages, by the way. I suppose there's a comment there. The Somerville, a guy coming in from Feyenoord. I think I can't remember. I think it was Focus on Leeds. I think, or one of the really good Twitter accounts that looks at scouting reports and stuff did a good thing on it. He said it looks really exciting, and one of the Feyenoord, the counterpart said I can't see why he's going to Leeds because he won't fit English football, but maybe that's why he's coming to Bielsa to change his type of football. He's meant to be quick, rapid, but very light, so he can be pushed off the ball. But about that, you know what Bielsa can do. He's got the Midas touch, hasn't he, as Bielsa?
I think any signing like that, I don't see it being a first teamer. If I'm being honest, I think.
No, going back to what Beren said, I can see a lot of under 23s going out. We heard, didn't we, that Shackleton were going to go. I say heard. We're not anything. Rumours. But I'd like to see Shackleton on that bench.
I think
I can see him being another quality product, and it won't be. I'll call it now. I think Shackleton will go on to play for England. Do you know what I mean? I can see that happening because I think he's that second leg against Derby. I thought he was unplayable.
Yeah, no, he was good.
Sorry, really, the first leg. First leg, I think he was in this top.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but listen, we've got loads to come. We've got Monday Night Football tomorrow night, right? We'll have a discussion about the stuff. We've got the Anfield agenda video. We've got our previews coming up. We're hopefully doing something with Redmen TV. Look out for that. Loads to come, man. Loads to come. Quite a long video.
Yeah, some great
content. We'll try our best, man. It's the best we can do. Watch this space, man. Premier League football on the horizon. I think
more videos this week. Dodgy Dave from the pub.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we'll leave it there, mate, for today, Danny.
Yeah.
And I've got this video coming up myself very soon. So thank you so much for tuning in as always, guys. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I promise it'll get better. I think. And we'll leave it there. Thank you. Have a great weekend, guys.